Women thrive on men's struggle, warning, pure Stoic truth. What if love was never meant to be fair? What if the very thing you're fighting for is thriving on your suffering? And what if nature, not malice, is behind it all? In the quiet space, between man and woman, a silent tension simmers, timeless, invisible, and rarely spoken aloud. It's not a battle marked by weapons or war cries, but a subtler conflict of instincts, of purpose, of power. German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, known for his stark realism and unflinching insights into human nature, observed this struggle without sentiment, and he left us a warning. Schopenhauer didn't dress up romance with poetry. He didn't sing praises of everlasting love. Instead, he stripped away the illusion. Beneath companionship's tender gestures lies a biological framework, a design of nature that quietly but consistently tips in favor of the woman. To Schopenhauer, a woman was not a passive participant in a man's journey. She was an active agent of nature, hardwired not for love or loyalty, but for selection and survival. And in that natural order, while men exhaust themselves striving to impress, provide, and protect, women often flourish. He observed with cold clarity that a man in love is rarely in command of himself. His drive, his ambitions, his energy, all redirected toward securing a woman's safety and affection. But that affection, Schopenhauer warned, is seldom drawn to his essence, not his spirit, not his soul. It's drawn to his strength, to his usefulness. This is not an accusation, it's not bitterness, it's biology masquerading as behavior. A woman does not consciously seek a weak man. She may say she values kindness or vulnerability, but when life turns harsh, when true trials arise, it is strength, not softness, that holds her loyalty. And here lies the tragic paradox. The more a man sacrifices for her comfort, the more he risks becoming what she subconsciously resists. A man who no longer leads, who no longer dominates. In striving to serve, he may quietly lose the very edge that made him desirable. Schopenhauer saw women not as villains, but as vessels of nature's will, elegant, essential, yet undeniably formidable. They may not wish for a man's pain, but they benefit from its outcomes. While he sweats, labors, and fights unseen battles, she often blooms in the peace his efforts provide. Even in the modern world, beneath polite conversations and progressive ideals, this primal rhythm remains. Men are still expected to prove themselves, to earn love, to validate their worth through achievement, but society rarely acknowledges the weight of this expectation. Rarely do we speak of the quiet cost it demands. And when a man falters, when his strength fades, when he can no longer perform in the ways society and biology demand, he discovers a harsh truth that Schopenhauer pointed toward. Affection is often conditional, admiration fleeting, and love at its core, a transaction forged by nature, not by fairness. Yet Schopenhauer's message was not one of despair. He wasn't condemning women, nor calling for men to rage against them. His warning was philosophical, not personal. He saw the woman not as an enemy, but as a mirror, a force of nature designed to test a man, to reveal who he truly is under pressure. She does not save him. She challenges him. She exposes his weaknesses. She is the arena in which he must either rise or collapse. And perhaps that is the deeper truth. A man must not rely on being loved. He must become unshakable. He must not seek ease from what exists. to refine him. He must not cry out for fairness, but build fortitude instead, because if it's true, as Schopenhauer claimed, that women thrive on men's struggle, then survival, even greatness, belongs to the man who doesn't just endure that law of nature, but transcends it. And now, let's go deeper. In the next section, we'll explore how this dynamic plays out in real-world relationships and why most men never see it coming. In the previous part, we uncovered Schopenhauer's stark truth that women, knowingly or not, often flourish in the shadow of a man's sacrifice. And that love, as nature designed it, is far more transactional than we're led to believe. But the answer is not bitterness. It's not surrender. It's clarity, stoic, unshakable clarity. A man doesn't rebel against the test. He doesn't fight nature's rules with rage. He learns to rise within them, not to be crushed by them, but to become worthy of the challenge. Because here's the harder truth. What if this world doesn't reward effort, but illusion? What if a man's deepest mistake is thinking his suffering is seen, remembered, or even matters? We're told from a young age that love is unconditional. That if a man gives enough, protects enough, sacrifices enough, he will naturally receive loyalty in return. But under pressure, when the mask falls, this belief often shatters, especially in the world that Schopenhauer saw so clearly. In his view, a man's role was to strive relentlessly, not for himself, but for the comfort and survival of others. He is the builder, the shield, the engine of civilization. But those he builds for, too often they forget. They don't see the pain beneath the labor. There is a haunting silence that follows male sacrifice. No parades, no praise, no mercy when he fails. While men are conditioned to bury their emotions and carry their burdens in silence, women, by contrast, are often encouraged to express discomfort, to voice needs, to seek support. And within this unbalanced social structure, something dangerous happens. The man becomes disposable. His value is tied to his usefulness. When he's strong, he's celebrated, but the moment he breaks, he's replaced. And here, this is where Schopenhauer's warning cuts deepest. Women may not actively wish for men to struggle, but their evolutionary and social roles are quietly built upon the very effort men are expected to give. Their comfort, their peace, their security, it all exists on the fragile back of male fatigue, male discipline, male self-erasure. The peaceful home, the working city, the reliable infrastructure, all of it is upheld by unseen male exhaustion. And yet these sacrifices go unnoticed, not because they're small, but because they're expected. A man who suffers quietly is not praised. He is simply seen as doing his job. But when he finally collapses, emotionally, financially, physically, he often finds that the love he thought was unconditional disappears without noise, without apology. So what's the real lesson here? It's not about hatred. It's not about blame. It's about awakening. A man must realize that his struggle, his effort, and his triumph must not be for validation. They must be for himself. The man who truly survives is not the one who gives endlessly in the hope of being loved. It's the one who gives strategically, with purpose, with strength, and with boundaries. He understands what Schopenhauer saw, that nature is not sentimental, and that real love, if it is to exist, must start within. Because if women truly thrive on men's struggle, then only the man who defines his own path, who struggles on, his own terms, can ever truly win. And here's the part no one talks about. The modern world, the comfort we enjoy, the systems we rely on, the cities we live in, were built on the backs of forgotten men. Every monument, every empire, every innovation was made possible by men who suffered in silence and died unnamed. History celebrates kings, but forgets the soldiers, the laborers, the thinkers who made their glory possible. Schopenhauer wasn't just warning about women. He was warning about nature itself, how it uses men like fuel, necessary, vital, but ultimately expendable. A man breaks himself to build a home, works a soul-crushing job to feed the family he loves, silently carries emotional burdens no one else even notices, and in the end, he's often labeled privileged, as if his pain never happened at all. But the truth is brutal. The world needs men to suffer, quietly. Because without that suffering, everything falls apart. Women, through no fault of their own, have learned to survive within this structure. They've adapted to benefit from it. Nature taught them well. Choose strength, align with power, seek protection. And so, when crisis strikes, be it war, hunger, or chaos, they don't look for kindness. They look for capability, not for soft hearts, but for strong hands. This isn't cruelty, it's biology. But it's also the beginning of something powerful. It's the beginning of a man's awakening, because once he sees this pattern, once he understands that his value is conditional, his love is transactional, and his suffering invisible, he faces two paths: collapse into bitterness, or rise. With clarity, the wise man chooses clarity. He stops giving blindly. He gives with purpose. He stops begging for appreciation. He cultivates self-respect. He stops sacrificing for illusion. He sacrifices only for what aligns with his truth. And in this awakening, the man becomes untouchable. But is this awakening enough? In the next part, we'll confront an even harsher reality: why modern masculinity is collapsing, and how men can rebuild themselves before it's too late. He has awakened, not with rage, not with resentment, but with clarity. He now understands if women thrive on his struggle, then his survival depends on owning that struggle, not being consumed by it. Not because he's heartless, but because he no longer allows himself to be manipulated by the mere promise of affection. He sees the pattern now. He sees the system. And more importantly, he sees himself. Yes, women may benefit from his effort, but he thrives when that effort is made by choice, not out of desperation. And that is the paradox. That is the warning. That is the path Schopenhauer tried to reveal. There is a deep silence that follows a man's work, not because no one sees it, but because everyone expects it. From the moment a boy becomes aware of the world, the unspoken rule is clear. You must earn your place. You must prove your worth. You must become deserving of love, not by existing, but by achieving. This is the invisible contract of masculinity. And long before the modern world packaged it into motivational slogans or romantic cliches, Arthur Schopenhauer saw it for what it truly was: a law of nature. He warned us, the dynamic between man and woman is not as poetic as we want to believe. It is not just about love, it is strategic, it is instinctual. It is governed less by ideals and more by biology. Whereas men often fall in love through emotion, women, by evolutionary design, are drawn to strength, to stability, to survival. And because of this, many women unconsciously thrive when a man pushes himself to the edge, to earn her attention, to meet her needs, to prove that he is worthy in a world that only remembers the ones who win. It is not because women are cruel. It's because nature is indifferent, and nature did not design women to sympathize first. It designed them to survive. So the man sacrifices. He breaks his back to build a life for others. He silences his own dreams to provide. He endures quietly, believing that his pain is the ultimate currency of love. That if he gives enough, he will be chosen. That if he is useful enough, he will never be left behind. But many men learn this too late. Love built on utility vanishes the moment that utility ends. And in that moment, when the provider becomes a burden, when the strong man shows weakness, he often finds himself alone. Not because he failed, but because no one told him. Your worth does not come from how much you suffer for others. It comes from how deeply you respect yourself. So he must awaken, not in anger, not in hatred, but in truth. He must stop asking, why doesn't she see everything I've done for her? And instead ask, why have I based my identity on sacrifice? Yes, women may thrive on a man's struggle. Yes, society may only celebrate him when he produces. But that does not mean he has to lose himself in the process. He must reclaim his power, the power to choose himself, to become grounded, to become intentional, to become unbreakable, not because he avoids pain, but because he transforms it. Because a man who truly understands Schopenhauer's warning is no longer starving for validation. He is no longer confused by fading affections. He is no longer enslaved by the illusion of unconditional love. He becomes calm. He becomes sharp. He becomes free, and freedom begins the moment a man stops begging to be chosen and starts choosing who he will become. So to every man listening, struggle, yes. Endure, yes. Build, yes. But do it with awareness. Do it with honor. Do it with a code. Don't fall for the illusion that pain alone earns you love. Let your pain become the lesson that teaches you how to love yourself first, so that no one ever again can use it against you. You were not born to be used. You were born to stand, and if this message awakened something in you, if it made you pause, reflect and remember who you are, then don't forget to subscribe, because here we don't just talk, we awaken. Next time, we'll shift from survival to connection. Get ready for the next video. The Secret of Hugs. She Can't Resist, where we explore the surprising power of male presence in physical intimacy and why certain hugs speak louder than words.